I don't know why this time is. Hello, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, and thank you for joining us from wherever you are. I'm glad to be here. Flora Gaptuni is my name. I am an unapologetic cancer warrior. Call me that again. That means I'm not afraid to say I have cancer growing inside me. And today is the first episode of our show. Yay! I know you've been wondering why we call it I've Got Cancer, So What? And I will explain. Thank you for joining us. It's been a long journey for me as well, being a cancer warrior, and lots of experiences which I've shared on my WhatsApp groups, on LinkedIn, YouTube, everywhere, starting from August 25th, and when I went public last year, 25th August. And I've learned so much, and I've also experienced a lot, having to listen to other people, support other cancer warriors. And that's the origin of starting this show, which I call I've Got Cancer, So What? It is a show that will inspire, empower, and define resilience. And I'm honored to have you here with us today. It is a journey of strength, resilience, and a celebration of life despite adversity. So once again, welcome to I've Got Cancer, So What? Like I said, it's a show where we confront the C word. I know some people don't like having the C word, but on this show, we call it its name. It's called cancer. And please, let's not call it a thing. That thing, it's called cancer. When we call it its name, we try to understand what it is, how we are going to fight despite all uncertainties around cancer. Most importantly, we uncover the power within us to not just survive, but thrive. I call it a show because we are here to have fun, we are here to learn, and we are here to build resilience. So it's not going to be like a very, very serious thing, even though we are discussing a serious issue. But it's more like bringing people together to find a way to listen to them and also share their stories. And it's not only about cancer, and it's not just for people living with cancer, though they are the central pillar of the show. It is for every single one of us who has faced a difficult choice in life, who has started but couldn't finish, who had stared uncertainties in the face, and who has wondered how to find meaning amidst chaos. Because let's be honest, life sometimes gives you options. We didn't choose. I didn't choose cancer, but it came, and I'm learning every day to live with it. All we try to do is to find a way to respond to what comes to us, to define it, and to find meaning to it. So this is not all about cancer warriors. It's about everybody trying to find their feet, trying to build resilience, and trying to see hope despite the chaos. We often find ourselves asking profound questions. How do we remain sane despite life insanity? How do we find meaning when faced with impossible options? These questions are not just for cancer warriors or cancer survivors or cancer caregivers. They are for everyone navigating life's unexpected twists. It's more than a show. It's a sanctuary of support, understanding, and wisdom. It's also a safe space where we share stories of triumph, where experts will lend their insights and where we as a community will learn to grow and to support one another. So there are lots of different episodes depending on which month we are in. So this month, because it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month, we are bringing in experts to think about breast cancer. Like we are going to have a guest today. The next show will be a survivor who will come to share her journey and also how to live. Because for her, she said something, and I'm just going to give you a bit of what is going to happen the next show. She said, "Cancer made me happier." You don't want to miss that next week. All right, so before we dive into today's insightful episode, I have a small request. If you are here to find inspiration, celebrate the human spirit, and learn how to remain sane despite life insanity, I invite you to join our thriving community at Flourish Cancer Wellbeing Initiative. You can join us via all our social media platforms on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. You can also join our YouTube channel, and all these programs will be stored in there, and you can watch us live. You need to also set notification button to be able to know when we are sharing insights or when the next episode is being aired. Once again, thank you for joining and thank you for choosing to be part of this journey. We are in this together to shatter stigmas, to share stories of triumph, and to learn from one another. On this show, cancer is cancer, and we call it by its name. No matter what it is, we are here to find out. Okay, now let's get to today's episode. And in my head, I call it taking the courage to know your cancer status. It's called Breast O'Clock, the fear of the unknown. And I'll tell you why we call it the fear of the unknown. Because I know lots of people, I've come across lots of people who, yes, they know that there is a lump somewhere in the body, maybe on their breast or somewhere, but they are afraid to actually go out to test themselves. To go and, in fact, they don't want to hear, oh, it's cancer. What are you afraid of? And with me today on this show, I have a mammographer who specializes in, a radiographer who specializes in mammography. Yes, those are two words that I'm battling to bring together. So when she comes on board, she will explain to us what that means. That also shows that she's been seeing cancer related cases, especially breast cancer, and she's here to share with us some of the experiences, some of the stories, some of the things that she has heard, and also tell us how to get ourselves tested. It's the September month of cancer awareness for breast cancers. Please be here, listen to us, join us as I welcome on stage Frances Ophi. Frances, you're welcome.
Thank you, Flora. Good evening. Thanks for
Good.
having me.
Thank you. You are welcome. And yeah, I love your smile. So it's going to be a beautiful show today. I love the way that you just come in and you are smiling. So thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much for joining us. This is our first episode, like I mentioned, of I've Got Cancer. So what?
You what?
And then everybody will be wondering why the name. But I've explained a bit, but we'll keep talking about why the name. Why the name? Because we need to take it from where it's hurting us the most and from where we are going to learn from it. There is no need to hide. There's no need to say, oh, that thing. Yes, cancer is here. The more open you are about it, the better you are going to live. All right. So, Frances, let's start with you sharing a bit about yourself and what you do, and then we'll take it from there.
Okay. Thank you so much, Flora. Like I always say, you actually inspire me, by everything you do. And being a warrior, being a courageous person to have beat this close to you. My name is Frances, as you've mentioned, Frances Ufili. I'm a radiographer. My area of specialization is in breast imaging. So mammography is just breast imaging, simply put. You know, um, Imaging could be in using X-rays or using ultrasound or using MRI. As in, that's what we have here in Nigeria. So basically, we are like the eyes of medicine. We try to see what is inside the breast, what the human eyes cannot see.
Okay,
I've been
so tell us
practicing.
about your experience. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I've been practicing for about 16 years now. So yes,
Wow.
we've seen a lot. Have seen.
Okay, let's unpack a lot. What is a lot? When you talk about breast cancer, what is a lot that you've seen?
Okay. Well, first of all, right, uh, when people come to you and they explain what they feel, you now try to educate them on what might be the likely outcome. It's not necessarily that that would be the outcome, right? You say, okay, by the time we do this and do this, you know, we might find this or we may not. And if we find this is the next step to take. But for them, they get scared. You have some patients that don't come back because
Hmm.
usually we have to counsel, right? So you come with a complaint of breast pain. We take your history, right? Get to know when you start your period first. You get to know if you've ever been pregnant, at what age you got pregnant, at what age you had your child or children, if you've breastfed, how long you breastfed for. All this data is actually very necessary. And then we go ahead and teach you how to do like a self breast examination. And we also do like a clinical examination for you. And then depends on the age. If you are less than 40, we advise for a breast ultrasound. Right? If you're above 40, we advise for a mammogram, which is the X-ray. And now you see some go ahead and do the ultrasound, that's the ones below 40. Sometimes they don't wait for the reports. Some get the report and they reject it. That is if it is bad. Now, and I always try to tell them, we seeing something like a lump doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. There are follow-ups to do. There's like a next stage, meaning, oh, we find a lump, it could be cystic, it could be solid, or we have to do an aspiration. Of course, at that point, we refer you to a surgeon.
Francis, can you hear me? Okay, I think she's having network challenges.
Aspiration, and then there's the final testing. Then, Laura, are you there?
Yes, I am. I am. Welcome back.
Okay.
Yes.
So there's the histopathology findings that will now definitely confirm if what we've seen was benign or cancerous, right? For mammograms, the first thing for patients is actually the fear of even doing the mammogram because they have this idea that it's painful. So you find us really assuring them and reassuring them that it's not painful. You know, I always have to describe what we're going to do, how we place the breast on the image receptor. So that compress don't get them scared. I remember a particular patient. wait, I think we had only done one view of one breast. She's like, no, 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 no. I'm like, please, ma'am, you need to do this. It's for your own good. She left. We tried and tried. We called the phone like afterwards to see if we could convince her. I don't know if she went elsewhere to do it eventually, but you know, I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, I can. I can.
Okay, okay, great. Yeah, so we get those kind of patients that get scared at the initial at the initial time. But sometimes you have some that become comfortable afterwards. It's always like I always say, it's always the fear of the unknown. They don't want to hear that they have breast cancer. They don't like it's like nah, they don't want to hear it. So, but the thing is, like I always tell them, it's not always the cancer that kills most times. It's the worry, it's the fear. So if you're calm and accept what may come, no, it's not like something will come. No, it might not, but let's just find out. Let's know the cause of the pain, of the breast pain. It could even be a hormonal problem. It could be that you are ovulating and you don't know, but you just feel this heaviness in your breast. But for the fear of cancer, you don't want to come to the hospital. You know, I have an experience. I noticed over time, over the years, that you have very few people. In fact, I discussed this today with a colleague of mine. Very few people walk into the general hospital to say they want to just have their breast checked. Like they don't see the need to come spend money just to check, like a wellness check, which is advised for women 40 years and above. You must have a wellness check, which includes your mammogram every year or every 2 years. So you don't find that, but if you go to a private center, a private hospital, yeah, maybe because the patients are more enlightened, so they could walk in and say, "Oh, I just want to have my breast checked." You have more patients going into private places than the government-owned hospitals. You know, um, having realized this, there was a time I had to do like a market outreach to educate the women in the marketplace. Say, okay, this is we had to do. We didn't do the PowerPoint slides. I just printed graphics. This is what to do. We started demonstrating how to check, how to teach their daughters that are already seeing their periods. How to check their breast and what to do. When they notice anything, how to take notes because some might not understand how the breast feels. They might just feel it's draining. So I now had to teach them how to write it down so that when they get to the hospital, they can tell the doctor, okay, this is what I felt at this time of the month. This is what I felt. I don't know if it's growing in size. Well, we haven't done a follow-up though to know if they showed up at the hospitals, but I was glad that um, they were enlightened. And I think we need to do more to enlighten the lower class people, women mostly.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing that. And you are just spot on with just some people not just coming back. And like the fear of the unknown, what would be the worst that would happen? Is it the cancer or is it just, I just don't want to know? Or is it because of the stigma out there and because so many people have said has experienced like stigma associated with cancer even though I've not, because I don't think there's any reason why someone should stigmatize against me having cancer. Maybe because I just put myself out there. But do you think it's all about the stigma or about the fear that once you have cancer, you die? That's like the whole thing about the myth about cancer kills. So once you have cancer, it's death penalty. Or is it because, like you mentioned, people do not know better? What exactly can we, like, what exactly are we afraid of Do you think people are afraid of, based on your experience so far, that makes them not want to go back to the hospital or even go? I have this experience of a younger, she should be about 23. And when I went public, she reached out to me. No, someone reached out to me on her behalf and said something like, oh, she has this lump on her left breast and it's been paining her, it's been bringing out fluid, loads of things. And she refused to go to the hospital. And I said, please give me her number. I called her up and she said she doesn't know, she's afraid, she's this one. I said, okay, what are you afraid of? What happens? What would be the worst that will happen? Yes, you have cancer. Then the earlier the better you start treating it. Oh, she said she doesn't even want to hear it. What don't you want to hear?
Doesn't want to
It's,
hear the question.
yes, she doesn't want to hear it. And then she also said something about God, that if there is anything in there, that God will heal it. So she better not go. So thinking about it, what do you have to say about it? Like, it's everywhere. Lots of people do not want to go and check. How can we make them go?
Okay. I think it's a mix of all of them. Um, there's the fear, which is the first thing, right? And then second thing is the financial part of it. Because you're pronounced having some kind of cancer. Of course, you have to start spending. So it's more like when you don't know what you have, you can decide to live in denial. You're not spending. You're still living in fear, and you probably start taking herbs and all that. In your mind, it's working for you. Your believing is working for you. You're not necessarily addressing the issue because you want to avoid spending. We understand that you need money, but like I met a survivor recently. She said she had to open up to people about money. She had to open up to people to say, you know what, I'm going through this, and I need to pay for my chemo session. Whatever you can. They didn't open a GoFundMe account, but you know, a simple 2,000 here, 3,000 here, 5,000 here went a long way for her because she didn't have. I think she had lost her job at the time. You know, so it's. I don't think in this kind of cases, it's not really about whether you're literate or not. It's the fear and then the finances, and then people living in denial because they're not ready to spend. They feel that they don't have it, and then of course the ultimate thing with death. Oh, if I have cancer, is a death sentence. But we try to teach people that it is always a death sentence. You can actually beat it if you're able to detect it on time. It's usually when it's at the late stage. See, when people actually show up when there's nothing else to do, when there's no other help to take, when it's just so glaring. And at that point, you're only hoping on God. Even the practitioners are just, silently praying for you. They might not tell you openly that, oh, it's only going to take a miracle, but that's actually how it happens.
Wow. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. And when you think about the finances, for this show today, we are not really going detail into that because that's another episode. We are just going to dedicate an episode on finances, how people battle to raise funds. I've seen lots of experiences. I've heard. I don't know what to say. And we've lost lots of people, lots of warriors who would have lived if only they had money to treat themselves. That's a difficult avenue to get into. But then let's talk about this woman. who, yes, she did her mammograph. She knew it was breast cancer. I think at the time it was stage 3. And then she was advised to start treatment. It's not that she doesn't have money for treatment. She do. She at the point she does. Um, but then it was about her faith. She said her pastor has touched her breast, so she'll be fine. All right. I'm
Okay.
so sorry, pastors. I'm so sorry, pastors and priests, but I don't know what you are doing with a woman's breast, especially a married one. Even if the person is not married, I don't know what a pastor or a priest is doing with a, a woman's breast.
Yes.
So she insisted on the pastor has prayed over the breast and touched the breast. So she's not going to go to the hospital. Everyone pleaded, according to the story. And 6 months after, she died,
Oh,
leaving 4 children
oh,
and a husband. Tell me about faith with healing cancer and what you've seen so far as a mammographer. When they come into those spaces where you are to examine them and they're thinking, oh, God will heal me, I'm not going to go to the hospital. Is faith enough to get us through cancer, especially as a mammographer? Bringing science into it as well.
okay. I would say faith, right, without works is dead. Let me just deviate a little. I remember some years back, I was scanning a pregnant woman, and a placenta was covering the os. The os is like the set where the baby's supposed to come up from. And then I just said, "Oh, madam, you might have a CS. What's going on?" And my husband said, "God forbid, my wife will give birth like a Hebrew woman." I said, "Yes, it's okay to have a baby, but a CS is not a curse. A CS is not a sin. If she doesn't, she might bleed to death." I said, "No way." Kept quiet because I'm not the gynecologist. I was only doing my part to scan. And 2 days after, I saw the man outside sweating profusely. And I'm like, "Oh, how are you? Are you okay? What's wrong? How's your wife?" "Oh, she almost bled. She almost bled to death." I'm like, "Because you made her go in like that, your faith is not her faith." So now let me bring it to cancers. A pastor's faith is not your faith. Someone can pray that your headache goes away, but have you prayed and believed in your prayer that your headache will go away? If you have a problem, whatever illness, not just cancers, if I say faith, you will actually do the work. And as you're doing the work, meaning if you have to take medications, if you have to um, um, do an aspiration or lumpectomy or mastectomy, whatever it is, as you're doing it, you are praying alongside it. So it's not like you're just, I feel people that do that is just, they're just living in, just being ignorant. They're not actually having faith. It is fear. It has nothing to do with faith. Because if you can't actually pray with your headache, like the regular headache, how do you pray with cancer? You start from somewhere. You start from, you know, the little. The little is the headache. The little is the stomach ache. The little is the finger pain. If you can pray that away, just maybe you might be able to pray away the cancer. I'm not against anybody's faith, you know, the Christendom or in Islam. I'm really not against it. If you think your faith can carry you, but I know that we have had issues, even though people, um, the way it works is, after a certain stage, we're not able to trace. Might go back and ask, oh, how about this patient? How's she doing? But if they leave, it's only on very few cases we're able to call them back to know what has gone wrong, or maybe they're being referred to bigger center, maybe like National Hospital or Zaria or something. And at that point, you really cannot follow up with them. But faith and illnesses, faith and cancer. I'm a Christian. Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Faith has to be extra strong, like extra strong, even though, to be honest with you, um, the survivors I know had to put in the work. Your pastor's faith is not your faith. Your sister's faith is not your faith. You need to believe. You understand? But still, I always say, put in the work. What is the work? Taking your medication. You can pray alongside the medication. Those that claim they don't even take transfusions when they need to, it, it doesn't always end well. A lot of people say they have faith, they don't need this. It doesn't end well because it is not their faith, it's just what the pastor says that they're trying to. They're not necessarily believing in God, they're believing in what the pastor says, and that is not your faith. That's what I have to say about that.
Thank you so much. And this, like, as you were talking about, like the faith, and then healing, I just remember this wonderful woman that I met a few weeks ago. She celebrated her 50th birthday, and she's a survivor. We started 2021. So during that party, she said something about she was calling different groups praying for her. I mean, she called one, I can't remember what she called them, but they stood in prayer for her every day by 9 p.m. for 365 days, as in the whole year that she was battling cancer. But that didn't stop her from being in the hospital, from taking her chemo, from taking her radiotherapy, from taking
Okay.
all the drugs. She was in the hospital. She had to do everything she needed to do. But the most important is that there are lots of people, different groups, different prayer groups praying for her. And that was also the experience I had because I came public, loads of people praying for me, loads of people praying for me. But sometimes someone would tell me that they heard my name in the prayer group, they don't know who raised it, and I don't even know who. But then that didn't stop me from going for my radiotherapy, from believing in myself, and
Oh, yeah.
also believing in God, because I needed
Good.
to fight whatever thing that's happening in my mind, and then believe in God, believe in my mother's prayer, believe in the prayers of everybody. So on this, we are telling everyone, and it's not just about cancer, it's about whatever you are going through. Like I said, this show is not all about cancer, it's about whatever you're going through. As you're believing God, believing in your faith, do the work, like Frances said, do the work. It's very important. And it's still, I've got cancer, so what? And today we are talking about breast o'clock, checking yourself, and it's all about the fear of the unknown. And so let's get to the practical part. If we don't want to get to a point where we are afraid, oh, this could be cancer, oh, this is not cancer, where do we start from? When do we start checking ourselves? At what age can someone start checking the breast, um, to see if there are any lumps, to see if there are any issues? At what age can we start checking the breast? And what would be the first thing you would do once you identify or you recognize a lump somewhere on your breast or any part of your body?
Okay. Um, if it was 10 years ago, right? I would say once you're 17, you can start checking your breast. But right now we have a lot of younger people having seeing their menstruations very early, So I would say once you're 12, once a child is 12, it's good to educate her. Now, not necessarily performing the self breast examination on herself, but educating her. I mean, she's still growing. The breast is still developing, even though she has started her period, right? So for females and even the males, right, the first thing to know is how to check your breasts. Like I would say, the way I simplify it, I'll say, imagine your breast as a clock, right? Now, the clock is 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock, right? 3 and 9. So imagine your breast is a clock. So you take the pads of your three fingers, the pads, and then you now, press in a circular motion round the clock. So from 12, 1, 2, round like that, round the clock. And then we go like to the middle, same thing, round the clock. And then the inner ring, round the clock. When you're done, you squeeze the breast to check for any form of discharge. If it is bloody or any clear color or greenish, or if it's pulse, you have to note it down. You also, you put your hand this way when checking it though. Same three parts, you check your axilla, which is our armpits. You check in for anything that feels like a boil. Yeah. Because if there's an infection, for instance, in the breasts, you might have what we call axillary lymph nodes. Lymph nodes are like tiny balls. You feel them. For those who don't might not know what it is, imagine you have an injury in your nose. If you press beneath your chin, you feel some things like balls. Those are lymph nodes. So they also occur in the armpits. We call it the axilla. So they're called axillary lymph nodes. So you check for that. You also check under the clavicle for the same lymph nodes. Do the same for the other breasts, right? And note down anything you feel. It's best done after your period, not while ovulating, not while you're in your period. It's best done after your period, like probably between the 7th to 10th day, if you're counting from the first day of your last period. That's when it's best done. So you note it every month if there's any difference. Also check for change in size. So it's okay to stand in front of the mirror looking at your breast. Okay, ideally one should be bigger than the other, but there's something. If it is obviously bigger than the other, then it might be a sign that there's a problem. So basically, check for the size. You check for the size. Um, check for any discharge. Use your pad to check for lumps. To check your antenna also for lumps. If you feel anything out of the ordinary, then you see a doctor. Now, you see a doctor if you're below 40. The first thing they will do after helping to um, also clinically examine you, you have done your own self breast examination. They will also do the same on you to confirm what you have said. Once they're done with that, they now proceed to sending you for a breast ultrasound if you're below 40. And that will now determine if what you have felt is a cyst or is a cystic mass. A cyst is like a fluid-filled sac, or if it's solid. They're all lumps generally, but ultrasound will be able to differentiate if it is cystic or if it is solid. Now, if you're above 40, the first thing they will do after clinically examining you is to send you for a mammogram. And once the mammogram is done, if the breast tissues are too dense, when I say dense, if the you share that image here, the whitish areas in the breasts on the mammogram, if it is too much, they will still refer you for an additional imaging, which is usually the breast ultrasound. So for 40 and above, mammogram first and then breast ultrasound if need be. And if there's any other thing left, like if they need to proceed to something else, if something is found, then I will refer you to a surgeon to either take out the lump or aspirate the cyst, and then the tissue that's been taken out will now be sent for histology.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing that. And I want to take you back a bit
Okay.
to when you said 12-year-old.
You're breaking.
If it's 12,
Okay.
can you hear me?
Okay, I can hear you
Yes, I
now.
am.
Okay.
If it's 12-year-old, that means we need to actually start in our schools
Yeah.
to start teaching our children. But then I've had this conversation about taking cancer to schools. There is this ideology that we shouldn't be exposing children to that cancer. And that means when you are taking it to, so that it was really an argument, would I say, like a conversation. So many people are for, so many people are against, saying that it will scare them, it will do this one, or just go to the schools and just say, test yourself, but don't call the cancer name. Can you share? There's been an expert, and thinking about the fact that we are the children, these young children we are trying to protect.
Okay.
By 10, 9 year olds, they've started seeing their menses, menstruation and all that.
See?
So is it not right if we start telling them about cancer, even in primary school? Or if just, because some people in primary, they're about 6, 11, 12, and then they enter secondary at 12 or so. When is the right time? And school advocacy very, very important.
Like I usually say, there are ways to teach different things in different ways for different ages. Right. Um, they're menstruating, right? You teach them period hygiene, menstrual hygiene. They know that. And you need to tell them before they even start the period. Sex education, you tell them ahead of time. So now, if we can do that, why can't we teach cancer awareness? It's just probably using, how will I put it, the right words for them. And then probably the way we do the graphics or tell a story with it. You understand? That way you're not putting fear in them. A story with a happy ending, not the way I'll just come direct to you and say it's like this, but no, because they are, I mean, probably that age group 10 to 12 or 10 to 13. Let me put it that way. Maybe you can start with that age group. Or this is what happened when she checked. You're growing. There's a way to tell a story to a child. They will accept what you have said without being scared. When they understand it that way, they're able to also tell other people that, oh, I was taught this. They're aware. And so I won't say they're too young to learn, because I mean, they've learned every other thing. If we expect them to know how to cook, wash this, we can teach them that as well. I'm not against school advocacy, right? It's just probably the manner in which we say it to them. Like like I will always tell a story with a happy ending. And so they will always have it in their head with a happy ending. We already were sold cancer is a death sentence, and that is why every adult has that cancer death. It's just on our heads like that, you know. But we can change that narrative. We can change it. Oh, this is how it works. When you check your breast at this stage, oh yes, you're going through your period. After the period check, remember, there's a way to put it, and the child will always see it as, oh, it's not a big deal. Oh, if we check early, it's not a big deal. And if we're able to do that, they won't have that narrative like we did. So that it's not, they're not too young. From 10 years if possible. 10 to 13, they're not too young to know. And afterwards, the next stage we can now, add more, to what they've been taught. Like, okay, this is the first stage. We always have to, there's a way you go through it, step by step, and then they grow with that understanding.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I also, like you said, telling the story, that also calls for more survivors to come
Mhm.
out, because
Yes.
when they know that we didn't just die, immediately they told us we had cancer, they will believe that someone can actually live with
Yes.
cancer and
Yes.
live
Yes.
happy, enjoy life, marry, love, do whatever it is that you want to do. Like I said, everyone, please tune in for next week. We are bringing someone who says, cancer made me happier. Mm, I'm looking forward to that experience. She's a survivor, 5 years gone, more than 5 years gone now, but she is living a beautiful life, enjoying herself, living to her ultimate. All right, let's get it a little bit twisted because of our time.
Okay.
Let's talk about the gender. Mm. The men, they do not want to hear that they can also have cancer. I know wherever they are pointing at me, they are looking at me, they are saying, Flora, what is your problem? I do not have problem, but I know that I've learned even from experts. I think one of our mentors also had somebody say, ha, men, you
Okay.
see,
Yes.
have cancer, and I'm asking you as a mammographer, do men have cancers? And if yes, what's the percentage? What can be done? What's the exposure they need? So that we are not just calling women all the time, especially breast cancer. I know men have prostate cancer and all
Prostate
that, but in
cancer and
terms
other
of breast
kinds.
cancer, have we seen men who were diagnosed of breast cancer?
Um, Men make up about less than 1% of breast cancer cases. Personally, I haven't seen any with breast cancer, but I have done mammograms on men that have lumps. But luckily for them, the lumps were not cancerous; they were just benign. You know, um, the very first time I did it, I was personally, I was shocked. I was still, I was much younger. In my mind, I'm like, how am I supposed to do a mammogram on this? you know. And so I just asked him. He said, "Oh, it's just the breast has been paining him." So of course, he didn't know anything about the self breastectomy. He just knows that it was a bit bigger. It's not like it was big, but there was just something hard there. And yes, we did a mammogram on it. It was painful for them, for him, because it's more like you're trying to squeeze out all the skin, you know. So he was like, Madam, I said, okay, just calm down. We'll get this done. So yeah, he had a lump, and it was taken out. Thankfully, it was benign. I think I did like four other cases that were similar, some slightly bigger than the first, and they were all not cancerous. But worldwide, um, studies and research has it that men make up less than 1% of all cancer cases. Now, we're not just educating women, the men also need to know, so that they can teach, like when they're in the know, they can also teach their daughters. They know what to expect per time. It's not a woman's disease. Breast cancer is not a woman's disease, right? So if you as a man is aware on your own, if you find anything on your breast, at least you're aware that, okay, I think I feel a lump. It doesn't feel normal, because whatever you feel on the right and you don't feel it on the left, that should ring a bell, or that should, tick something in your head that there's something wrong. So if you feel a hardness here, you don't feel on the other side, be you male, be you female, you should go to the hospital and have it checked out. So it's not for them to say, oh, breast cancer is just for women. No, it is not just for women. Anybody here could make up the less than 1%. It's not like it's for a certain race or certain tribe or certain ethnicity, right? It could happen to that. It could happen to anybody. They could make up that less than 1%. So awareness for them is also important. And so when they're aware, they check themselves. They recognize if it happens to somebody else, you know, a nephew, anybody, a brother. And so they educate them as well. And then when they see the same thing in women, they're able to say, oh, I think this is this. Why don't you have it checked? So, yes, it is not a woman's disease.
Thank you
A
so
woman's
much for
problem.
sharing that. It's not a woman's disease. And
It's
also,
not a woman's problem.
yes, it's not a woman's disease. And someone says in the chat, I am shocked.
So
Wow.
please don't be shocked. It
Thank
is now you
God,
know.
thank God you learned that one. You don't need to be shocked. Um, Things happen. And I've heard that in different discussion about men being diagnosed with cancer. Less than 1%, but it's still something. So you
It's
could get
something.
yourself tested if you're feeling anything. All right. So if there are questions in the chat, we could answer that. But then there's another angle to this in terms of we are in this, like currently in Nigeria, there is this thing about examination, treatment, not enough. And then it also boils down to some hospitals not having the right equipment. Like you go to this hospital, they say the mammography is not working. Um, there are lots of, like, I know when I had to go through my own MRI, CT scan, I had to call different um, hospitals. If we start thinking about the number of occurrences, like cancer being detected, do you think it could, like we could have done better, or maybe Nigeria as a whole, like catching this disease at a younger stage, or just any time, if we have adequate resources or medical equipment or facilities that could also help, and also bring those ones working, the cost is not friendly. What can we do in terms of facilities? And do you have any idea of what the government is doing, or how we can just get it better? Imagine the whole of Nigeria and getting to West Africa. We have only one PET scan at Mikil. And I just read something. I can't remember who, but I read something, someone trying to set up a 4 point something billion cancer oncology center or something. I don't know who, but I read it somewhere. I can't remember whether it's Dangote or whether it's, like, I know, so a very rich man. But before we get to that point, and when they set up some facility like that, it will be for the big, they will put it 3.5 million for one test and 750,000 for PET scan. What can we do? What do we do better in terms of treatment?
Um, this is This topic, right, is is a debate that even though we try, you know, we'll still say we're waiting for the government. In the whole of Nigeria, we have very few radiotherapy centers. And this alone, for those that have been diagnosed with cancers, after they're probably done or maybe while doing their chemotherapy sessions and they still need radiotherapy, you find out that you could go to the one working maybe in Abuja and then either it's broken down or the waiting time is too long. Now, you can't prioritize one over the other because everybody is a priority. You find people coming from other states to Abuja. It's not their home, right? They just want to have their radiotherapy done. And you find them either sleeping on the corridors because they cannot afford to pay for a hotel. The next one I think is in Zaria. So imagine this whole, there's none in Jos, there's none in Kogi States, there's none in Benue. I think Lagos has. I don't think Benin has. So imagine the whole of Nigeria having to go to certain states. Now, if we have at least two per state or even one per state, the wait time for patients will reduce, and at the end, we'll be able to save patients, right? That's for those that need radiotherapy. Um, for mammograms, yes, it's you could go to some government hospitals and they're not functioning. It's meant to be cheaper there, right? You go to the private place, then it's twice the price. Remember, I said they don't want to hear the word cancer, not just for fear, but also the finance. So what you probably do 10,000 in the government, so you and do it maybe 20,000 or 30,000 in the private place. So you think about that. The private ones are available for the diagnostic parts, but for the treatment parts, it's almost as if they're leaving it solely to the government. Yes, I think there's some. I heard of some place in Lagos that just opened. I don't know. I can't remember the name. But yes, not everybody can afford that. The person has opened it not just to help to save cancer patients, but it's also a business. You understand? She must recoup her money or his money or their money. They must recoup, right? So the best they can do is probably give a discount, probably not more than 5 or 10%. But we believe the government has to do more. Now, in these radiotherapy centers, right, there are very few radiation therapists as well. Very few. So you could have in one center maybe one person to 200 patients. How do you even? How? Like you're human, right? So how are you able to compose yourself, plan right for each patient? And these sessions take time, you know. And of course, you see people coming to beg, you know. That's why I said that's why when you talk about it, I smile because it's. I think we need to have more maybe national cancer summits, things like that, so that we can actually all the stakeholders. I went for a cancer summit recently organized by my board. What we did was to invite the stakeholders we know, that is both students, right, survivors as well, radiation therapists, mammographers, you know, doctors and NGOs. So we talked about it, like what can we do? What can we propose to the government? At the end, it boils down to finances. But these things have to be done more frequently. Cancer summits with all the stakeholders involved, and probably reach an agreement and then present it probably to the Senate, to the House of Reps, whichever, you know, so that they pass it as a bill that they're going to do this. Because yes, the waiting time is usually a problem. The
Wow.
waiting
Wow.
time is usually a problem. So, say you're supposed to start treatment now, but unfortunately, because of the number of patients waiting, you're not able to start your own session until after. That's why you're not seeing people going to take herbs and going to the locals. I hear there's a place in Jos where they cut open, wherever they think the lump is, and then it just bleeds out. They won't even stitch it. And I hear you find educated people there. So they just cut, and then they come, I don't know, they bleed out, and then they're rubbing herbs on it with the hope that the cancer will go. Spend a lot of money. The government actually needs to take it more seriously. There's a time some center was set up, but to me, this is the light of the International Cancer Center in Abuja here. It's a very massive structure. After that launch, it didn't see the light of day. I'm sure there were a lot of prospects. I was excited for it because then we had like a group called Abuja Breast Society where we were trying to handle things like this. But that didn't see the light of day. Yeah, in as much as we create awareness, we advise on what to do, when it's time for radiotherapy, for those that need it, what happens? Your wait time. The wait time really could increase the chances of the cancer spreading to other parts. It could, so stakeholders meeting, stakeholders agreements is very important, and then presenting it to the powers that be, and ensuring that there's someone in there to keep pushing the ball until they hear us. That way we can help to save our generation. Because yes, we're
Thank you
already
so
there. So,
Thank you so much for sharing that. I don't even want to share a lot. Like, it's overwhelming what
yes,
people go through just to get tested. I learned about a test last few weeks ago. I learned about a test, one single test about cancer that is 10 million naira. I don't know how many people can afford that. And then I heard something about one indigenous fund that the government kept somewhere for indigene, or whatever, what do you call indigent or whatever, who,
vision.
like a poor person who in this country can comfortably afford 750,000 for one PET scan, and then you do it two times, or then you have to come back and do it. There's more to do. One of the things that we are planning at Flourish is to have a cancer center. And I hope that people who are hearing me, who can hear me, or will listen to this, watch this video later, please, if you know someone who is rich that can get us funds, we need a cancer center, and it will run on voluntary because we need to reduce costs. And that's how we are planning it. We are putting together lots of things to build this cancer center so that it's not just about having fun and doing all the 8 components of well-being. We're also thinking about reducing the cost of at least not treatment now, but at least the testing that will lead to treatment. As much as we can do, we are looking forward to getting it done. And it's almost time. And thank you everyone for joining. Just before we close out, I'll ask our guests to share her final words. But before then, I'm asking every one of us to please connect with us, share about cancer, Flourish Cancer Wellbeing Initiative. Support us. You can go to our handles, all the avenues to which you can support this initiative. It's everywhere. Please support what we do. Follow us. Share about this initiative. Share about what we do. Next week, same time, we are going to have another episode of I've got cancer. So what? And the idea is we need to be very open about cancer. If I'm living with cancer, the least you could do as someone who is not living with cancer is to love me, support me, embrace me, rather than stigmatize against me. And in the next coming month, we are going to do, that will be Caregivers Month. We are bringing in caregivers to talk about their own experience because there's a lot. We talk about the warriors, the survivors, and sometimes we abandon the people who take care of us, who pack all our shit, who like we vomit on top of their body, who cry as we are crying, and sometimes they want to give up, but because they love us, they are still here. So everyone, please stay tuned, share about what we do. If you are yet to subscribe to our YouTube channel, please go ahead and subscribe and turn on the notification button to be part of what we do. There is more coming from here. And before we say good night, please, Frances, could you share your final words about the breast o'clock, the fear of the unknown?
Remember, early detection is key. It's very simple. Like you must do what we call a screening breast examination. Screening is just to check the breast before there are any signs or symptoms, right? So you can walk in right now is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I would say to every female right now to walk into any diagnostic center in Nigeria. I'm certain that there'll be a discount in any center you go to right now. It could be 10, 20, up to even 50%, right? So have your screening mammogram done because early detection is key. And that's the only way we can treat these cancers. If you're able to, detect it very early on time, then we can treat and then you can survive. But please do not live in denial. If you know anybody that has any pain whatsoever, encourage them. Be their support. Show them love because if they are scared and then someone is there showing them love, trust me, they will give in, to go for treatment. So please, um, I'll say thank you for having me right now. It's been
Thank
a
you,
wonderful
Francis.
time.
Thank you for joining. Thank you for
It's been
coming
a
on this.
wonderful time.
Thank
Cheers.
you. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. And thank you, everyone, for joining. Our time is fast spent. And please join us next week as we bring in someone who is going to tell us the joy, the happiness, and the life she's living as this cancer survivor. She said, cancer made me happier. And you don't want to miss that. And whether you have cancer or not, or whether you know someone who is living with cancer, please ask them to join and learn how to find joy, find peace in whatever comes to you. I'm still Flourishing Flora, and it is the first episode of I've Got Cancer by
All right.
Nepa
Thank
know
you.
has to show themselves. Oh, it's okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Thanks and see you all the time.
you.
Thank you so much. Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you. Bye, everyone. Bye.